Hello, Instant Pot friends. So I'm coming to you from a freezing cold house. Our furnace died yesterday and we're not going to be able to get heat for a couple of days. So anyway, I was definitely in the mood for something from my Instant Pot, something nice and warm, and I decided just because I'm cold, I don't want to stand here and do an elaborate meal. I'm going to do a basic macaroni and cheese. And I decided to video it because with a lot of the new folks that we have, you know, there might be some of you out there that don't know how to do macaroni and cheese, and it's kind of fun just to illustrate it. Now this is super basic. A lot of times I'll do one with bacon and onions and, you know, sometimes mushrooms and all kinds of stuff, but this is just down and dirty, and just for the sake of showing you, you know, how to do it. One of those nights. Okay, so I'm going to turn my pot on to saute. I do that so that I can start warming it up and it'll help it come to pressure faster. If you've ever seen any of my other videos, I don't always do it, but I do it a lot. And I'm going to show you the kind of pasta that I'm using. Okay, this is kind of funny. So I buy this pasta at Costco, and there's a whole, you know, Costco, you're going to buy like 50 of everything, right? So it has this pasta, and it has this really weird shape. I don't know if you can see that. It's kind of a twisted, folded, neat little thing. It comes with some penne and the bow tie and a few other shapes. And there's a whole bunch of bags. I want to say like 10 or 12 bags. And if you're familiar with it, maybe you've purchased it before. But what I love about this pasta, aside from the fact that it's organic, I'm not full-on organic, but if I can get it, I'm going to definitely buy it. But what I love about this pasta is that it's very hearty. When I cook it in the Instant Pot, it holds up really well. I have never cooked a batch of macaroni and cheese with this pasta that has been mushy. It's always been al dente. One of the other things about it, it's not a pound like normally the recipes call for a pound. It's 17.6 ounces, so it's almost 2 ounces more than a pound. So I do end up adding a little bit more water, but that's just something to keep in mind. So usually when you make macaroni and cheese, you're going to look at the time, and this one has it nice and big here for us. It says ready in 11 minutes. And the rule of thumb with the pressure cooking for pasta is that you do half of what the package tells you. So in this case, it would be, you know, 5 or 6 minutes. And what I usually end up doing with this one is I do it for 5 minutes, and then I let it naturally release for a minute or two. And then if there's any foaming action happening in there that could cause a problem when I release it, release the pressure, then naturally releasing it for a little while kind of helps take care of that. So I'm not going to add the pasta first thing. I'm going to actually just lean it up over there. I like to cook my macaroni and cheese with broth, either bone broth or just chicken stock, maybe that I made a little quicker than I do the bone broth, which in this case is, and it's going to be a little bit more than this. So this is 4 cups. So going in. Woo! I probably could have put that in before I turned it on saute, but there's a little extra goop down in there. Let me rinse it. Actually, I shouldn't really call it goop. It's good chicken stuff. And then, like I said, this is slightly more than a pound, so I'm going to put just a little bit more water in, but I'll do that in a minute just to make sure that I do indeed need it. So I got that in there. The other thing that I'm going to add is some butter. Most macaroni and cheese, you know, even the stuff in the box has butter in it at the end. We're just putting the butter in now, and I don't know, a couple tablespoons maybe, and just a little bit more. Get in there. Okay, so our butter's in the pan, and then I also like to add from my salt peg here, even though I'm not using my fingers. I'm going to measure about 1/2 teaspoon, and I also love adding coarse ground pepper, so that's also about 1/2 teaspoon of coarse ground pepper in there. And so that's warming up. And what I like about warming it up, aside from the fact that it does help it come up to pressure faster, is that it melts the butter. And so that's a really good thing. Okay. And then the other ingredient that I like to add, and I'm doing this with one hand over here, but let me pour it in here, is ground mustard. I think most macaroni and cheeses, even if it's not an Instant Pot recipe, I remember the kind of macaroni cheese where I had to make a roux with the flour and the butter and all that kind of stuff, and my homemade cheese sauce, I always put mustard in it. So a nice heaping tablespoon of ground mustard, it gives it a tang. It also helps, sorry, some spilled. It also just helps give it a little bit more flavor, because, you know, this is a really basic recipe, and like I said, since I'm not doing the bacon onion thing, I don't want it to be too boring. So anyway, I've got all that stuff in there, and then I'm just going to go ahead and dump in the pasta. And then I'm going to give it a stir. And I forgot my spoon, so I'll be right back. I'm back with my wooden spoon. So I'm going to go ahead and just stir it up. And then, so what I'm going to look for, aside from the fact that I want the butter to kind of melt just a little bit more, I think that when the butter melts, it helps the noodles stay separated all in the end. You know, it gets a little bit of lubricant on there, so to speak. Is I like to pat down the noodles and just kind of see how much water covers them. So this is pretty good. If you don't want a watery macaroni and cheese, you're probably going to be just fine with this. So 4 cups was actually pretty good. I like my macaroni and cheese a little bit wetter than some people do, so I'm going to add just, I don't know, maybe a quarter to a half a cup more water. And you know what? If that ends up being a mistake at the end, you can pop it back onto saute mode and just stir it and cook out some of the water, or add more cheese, which is my favorite thing to do. Okay, so you can see that's warming up really, really well, and everything is in there. And that's pretty much it. Now all we have to do is close the lid and set our time. So before I do that, I'm going to cancel my saute mode. I could wait and have it get a little bit hotter before I do it, but I just want to get this thing into cooking and then be able to go sit down on the couch, because I've been on my feet all day. Okay, so on goes the lid, give it a turn, set it up to sealing, and then I'm going to come over here to the control panel. So we saw that 11 minutes was on the package of the pasta, so that means that we would want to go about half of that. So I'm going to put it in manual. Oh, you can tell I did bone broth last. So I'll go back around. So 240 is the highest you can go, by the way, in minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do 5 minutes for this pasta. That's like my magic number. And like I mentioned earlier, after the 5 minutes is up, I can just naturally release the pressure, you know, for a couple minutes, and it'll just get that little extra bit of cooking. You know, macaroni and cheese, it's pretty easy, but if the first time you do it, it doesn't turn out perfectly, don't worry about it. Just try something different. The first time I did it, the pasta was a little bit overcooked. I did a different brand, and I used penne. I did, I think I did do 5 minutes on that one, and my husband was like, ew, this is mushy, and I was like, yeah, it's not the greatest. So we just dropped it a minute the next time, and then I switched brands of pasta and just did the 4 minutes on this, thinking it was going to be like the other, and it was way too al dente. Like, it was just this side of crunchy. So I was like, okay, well, this pasta, obviously I have to bump up the time a little bit more. And at that time, I didn't know about the read the package and do half of it. I was just kind of flying by the seat of my pants. So, you know, don't give up if the first time you do it, it's not perfect. You're going to find your way. And, you know, that's just the fun of this, is you can make it your own. All right, so we're going to let that heat up, and then it's going to come to pressure and count down, and then we'll let it manually release for about 2 minutes. And I will come back with the rest of this when that process is going on, okay? I'll be back. Okay, so the pot has been naturally releasing for 2 minutes, and I'm going to go ahead and do a quick release on this. So I'm going to turn the pot off and just grab my wooden spoon here. Now, with pasta, just like with oatmeal and some soups and veggies and things like that, the pasta has starch and it's kind of foamy in the pot right now. And that's part of the reason why you add the butter. You want to add a fat to kind of help reduce that foam. And that's part of why I do a pressure release, of 2 minutes or so, because then it kind of helps subdue that a little bit. But, you never know what you're going to get. So I'm just really careful. I'm going to just go really easy. And then if it doesn't look like anything's going to spew out of there, I'll do just a full quick release. Who knows? You might... See, so the other thing that I'll do is I'll just release it in little bursts. And there is stuff coming out, but it's just moisture. It's not the starch. All right, I'm going to let it go. I'm going to let it go now. If I can get it over there. Okay, the pin just dropped and it's ready to open the pot. This is just water, so none of my starch spewed out, which is a really good thing. So, let the moisture kind of drip in there. And there we have it. I'll go ahead and just stir the contents around a little bit. See, it doesn't stick to the bottom or anything. It's just fine. And see, there is quite a bit of moisture in there, but that's part of what's going to make your cheese sauce. So I just make sure right now, the reason I'm stirring it is also to make sure that the noodles are all separated before I add the cheese. I don't want them to be all clumpy. I want every noodle to get some cheese on it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of whole milk. This is a half a cup. Happens to be organic whole milk. I'm going to turn this back on to saute just for a couple of minutes because I don't want to cool down the macaroni and cheese too much, and I want the cheese to really melt. So I'm just going to make sure I keep an eye on it while it's on saute because it does get pretty warm. Alright, so that's going to start warming up, and I'm going to go ahead and start adding some cheese. So here I have some Monterey Jack. I just happen to have it, and since tonight I just wanted something really quick and easy, I'm just using what was in the fridge. And I had a chunk of Monterey Jack. I just grated it up while the noodles were cooking. So I'm going to put in about half of this to start, unless it comes out in one clump, in which case I'll put it all in. Okay. Alright, just a little bit more. There we go. And then just give it a stir. Okay. And then for good flavor, I like to use extra sharp cheese. And I'm just going to keep it real. This was in a bag. I did not grate this. I do have a block in there, but this needed to get used up. And I was like, weehaw, I don't have to grate all that cheese. So I'm just going to use that. Once it's melted, it's going to taste just fine. So this is probably about 5 cups, but I'm not going to put 5 cups in here. I just dumped it all into my bowl just to see. So that's about a cup, and that's about a cup. So I'm going to start with 2 cups and just stir it in there. And you can hear maybe you can hear my saute mode is cooking. I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to just turn it off because I think it's warmed the pot up quite a bit. And then, sorry about that, it's starting to turn into a real cheesy, dreamy mixture. And as far as I'm concerned, you saw how much moisture was in there. That is not watery at all. And I've heard some people say, ooh, it's so watery. Well, if it's a little bit watery, then go ahead and cook out some of the water with saute mode. But honestly, I think that if you use the ratios that I showed you, you're going to be just fine. And just because I'm going to spoil myself a little bit, I'm going to put in a few splashes of heavy cream. It's okay. Some people put hot sauce in their macaroni and cheese. I would add mine after the fact because my husband doesn't really like spicy stuff. Not too spicy. I've slowly been converting him over the years over to the spicy side. Okay, so that's looking really good, and I still have some more Monterey Jack left, so I'm just going to add a little bit more of that. Okay, so I'm adding all of it. It's okay. And then just because I happen to have it in the fridge, I had some shredded Romano cheese. You could add Parmesan if you want. You could completely omit this if you want, but I just love the kind of tangy flavor that this stuff has, and it's a little bit salty, and since I didn't add too much salt to the water, it can take it. I'm always careful about adding salt to mac and cheese. You can always add more, but you can't really take it out. And because cheese is kind of salty, you know, you just want to be careful. Okay, that looks really good. I'm going to add, oops, just a little bit more of the sharp cheddar, and I think that's going to do it. So all in all, that didn't really take too long. I mean, if you're the kind of person that likes to buy the bags of shredded cheese, more power to you. It's going to be an even quicker dinner. But there's enough here to feed a family, and, you know, it tastes really good, and it's hot, and we're freezing cold in our house tonight. So there you go. That's it. Yummy, yummy homemade macaroni and cheese very quickly in your Instant Pot. And I hope you guys enjoy it, and I hope you're all warm and toasty in your homes, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.